Thank you very much, Raffaele. I'm supposed to summarize the unsummarizable, and it is not made any easier because I'm here in New York and I have not heard the conference and have not received anything, but I have heard the last two comments and I'm largely in agreement with them already, so I'm not quite sure if I can go beyond them. But here in New York, it is a cold morning, it is a snowy morning, and it is therefore easy to think about the vivid image given by some people of a digital Cold War that is following Dubai. A digital Cold War in which different countries and regions will operate under different internet rules. A digital Cold War without an internet that works the same way around the world. Now, are these people right who warn us of that? I believe that they are right, unfortunately. But I think also that it is inevitable that we must get used to the idea that the uniform internet is the past and not the future, and that the future is one of a federated internet, not a uniform one, an internet perhaps of internets, not a uniform system. And I say this with much regret. We have all been talking here for a long time about digital convergence, and yet here we are observing a digital divergence, and we're not used to that. In the past, the internet was based on a system created to a large extent by computer scientists, most of them in American universities. It was based on a common set of values, a non-profit sharing ideology, a libertarian philosophy of minimal government. The decision process was one of rough consensus. It was successful around the world. It became a key social, political, economic infrastructure around the world. And at that point, the interests of the different governments became too big to stay out of internet matters. And since governments around the world diverge widely, their internet perspectives became too divergent to keep together. And that is not surprising at all. There are few things that we do in the same way around the world. What is most surprising and unusual is that we had a uniform system at all. Let me stop here for a moment and do a sound check. Do you hear me well? Do you see me well, Raffaele?
Yes.
Good. All right. So what we have seen here in Dubai is a return to a more dismal.
Excuse me, Eli. We have just we tried to call Terry Kramer from the technicians' room. So I'm sorry for disturbing you. Please follow with your contribution. Thank you.
So what we are seeing here in Dubai is a return to normal, a dismal normal, and that is probably just the beginning of the fragmentation of the internet. And I say this with much regret. And there is an earnest effort to bridge these divergences, and thanks to all of you here and in Rome who are trying and maybe succeeding this time still. But the reality is that the world is a divergent place and the internet is part of the world. And this divergence will become even much worse, actually, as the internet becomes the platform of media for television. Now the interests and values of different countries and societies becomes still greater as media does. So there's only so much agreement that is possible or acceptable or stable. It is hard to imagine an agreement on fundamental internet issues of the United States and, say, Iran. So either one disagrees or creates an unsatisfactory and unstable compromise. So what can one do about it? First, accept the inevitable. Second, keep it as much as possible a system in which the engineers and not the politicians and government officials make decisions. Third, keep the decision process in which only those decisions are taken that have broad international consensus, a bit like the Security Council, on broad principle and not on specifics. None of this will be enough, of course, but it might help. But most of all, and fourthly, it is necessary to think about mechanisms that bridge the emerging federated internets. And I say internets plural. We need to establish interconnection points. We need to establish financial arrangements. We need to establish security arrangements and a whole new agenda or of issues. And how would one do that? Well, to some extent, it would be done by intermediary organizations, intermediaries. Those are likely to be, for example, some of the clouds or the cloud providers that are emerging. They are intermediaries that bridge non-uniform technical standards. They also bridge different legal and regulatory environments in that they create compliance and enforcement either on the incoming end or on the outgoing end. These intermediate sanitizing by intermediaries is not a particularly desirable system, but it might still be better than others. And in any event, it is likely to emerge, whether we like it or not. In some cases, it will be about privacy and its compliance or security or liability or many others. And these kind of cloud intermediaries will be the glue that holds together the federated internet. Most of them will be private. Some of them will be public and governmental. The ITU, for example, might consider providing such a cloud service. And we should start thinking about how to function and how many gatekeeping functions these clouds should have and how much market power such intermediaries are permitted to have. We must therefore think about a federated system, the Internet of Internets. It is a creative opportunity. We can do it. Instead of banging our heads against the wall trying to achieve uniformity, which satisfies nobody, we should find arrangements where different arrangements can coexist. And this can be done in a variety of ways. For example, it could start by a collective brainstorming that might be organized under the aegis of ISOC or ITU or another institutions that brings together thinkers and academics and stakeholders and others in an unofficial way to try to establish some principles of not a Cold War, not uniformity, but peaceful coexistence. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to hearing the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, Eli Noam.